Welcome back, Heart Warriors and Patreon subscribers, to the Energy Tips for week 13. That is the 23rd till the 29th of March, a heavy trauma processing week. So I hope you are okay. I know that many of you who work with me directly have had quite a few revelations over the course of the last 2 weeks, and I want to help you to contextualize this a little better and also acknowledge what it is that you are perceiving as your trauma. But first off, let's mention some of the things that I've talked about in the energy update. The witnessing of your own trauma, the witnessing of your own pain as being sort of the most important part of taking action. And how do we do this? All right, so in the energy update I had the spontaneous idea of creating a hashtag eyewitness. That's something for you to just find an outlet if you don't have a person to talk to, if you're not working with me directly. Here at transCODES, there's so many ways to share in a safe space, be it in the Patreon channel. The comments there can only be read by other Patreon subscribers, in the self-healing forum, or even in the YouTube or Instagram or Facebook groups that are there for you to just have this acknowledged, what it is that you're going through. Nobody there is going to say you're just making this up or this isn't true. All right. So the power of sharing, even if it is not with a person that you know or that commiserates with you, but just the power of witnessing your own sharing, basically. So this sounds a bit complicated, but it's actually more simple than you think it is. It's by saying things out loud, you're actually acknowledging its existence, and this redirects your energy away from you trying to prove or trying to deny the existence. And that is, from an energetic point of view, guys, one of the main causes for our physical, emotional, mental and spiritual illnesses. All right, this is because we are redirecting our energy into a place where we're trying to prove something that is not even needed to be proven anymore. It's already real, yes. And processing the past doesn't mean that you have to become a psychic detective about everything and explain causes. Processing your past means acknowledging it and then to move forward, then to execute the power that comes out of acknowledging it, and that is choice. So finding your medicine means understanding that your true power is the power of choice once you acknowledge truth. So I want to call all you guys to a week of consciously seeing the things that have been traumatizing you, that have been giving you a bad start, that have been restricting you, that have created pain in your life. And I want you to accept them, to go into this no-nonsense type of, yes, this is what it is. You cannot change those experiences, those facts, but you can change the meaning of them. You can make them part of your process of healing, of your process of becoming more resilient, of becoming more active and more powerful, and more courageous, by taking your power back. And what is that power? It's choice. You have the choice to stay in that wheel of suffering and to get pulled into the abyss of your inner pain, your inner darkness, or to step out. Okay, and sometimes it's easier to do this with the help of somebody else, but you have the knowing and the medicine in you already. You just need to stop distracting yourself with this external validation. It is not important that other people believe you. It is important that you believe yourself. Okay, so let's jump right into the chakras that are affected next week, what this does to our collective, what this does to us individually on the physical, emotional, relationship, intellectual, and spiritual level. Okay, so the chakras involved here are first, foremost, and our second a little bit. So those are things that have to do with our emotional processing, that have to do with our pain body, that have to do with our past, but also with some of our fundamental, most basic needs, desires, and passions. And when it comes to our past, then we're very often forced to looking into what we need and what we truly want. Okay, this for us active self-healers comes in through the fourth chakra, the heart chakra. So this next week is all about allowing your past, including, the issues that you have in the present, say with addiction, or say with, desires, or not being sure about what you want, or not being sure about how to approach this and how to manifest this, to let this all go into your heart chakra and to tap into your inner divine guidance, to tap into your inner higher power that can provide you with the needed guidance to do so. But it is you that has to make that step, that has to make that active shift. You have to initiate this. So next week is the time of initiation into your own self-healing powers, and it has a lot to do with masculine and feminine energies. Those of you who are familiar with the architecture of your energy body will also feel this very clearly. So the victim in you guys, the part in you that is actually almost like indulging in your pain, that's linked to your feminine energies, needs to step up and learn how to go into union with this masculine part in you, those masculine energies in you that want to fight against what is causing the suffering. Okay, and this is what most of you experience throughout your life. You're either in this sort of victim place, or you're in this perpetrator place where you get angry and where you lash out and where you want to eradicate the perpetrators or the whatever causes it, and where you then end up going into too destructive type of accusations, or where it gets just out of hand, and where it's just end up being like a venting or lashing out, and only to feel guilty, only to doubt yourself, only to go back into this imbalance where you end up feeling victimized again, and where all you can see is the injustice. Okay, so we have first chakra aspects that link into the liberation of your feminine energies by unifying with your masculine energies. This is something I've mentioned many times before, part of our collective evolutionary development, and very strong this next week. And then we have this fifth and seventh chakra influx that is coming in to really show you that the only way you can actually bring all this into expression and actualization is through seeing the larger picture. But you have to take action, okay? You have to set active boundaries. You have to make an active choice, and that active choice comes out of this connection between your fifth, which is your expression, and your connection to the divine, your conscious awareness, your divine consciousness that allows you to see these promptings from your true self that have been coming in all along, and bring this together in this sort of light bulb moment where you like, I'm just not going to participate in this anymore. Okay? And that's your power, guys. Okay, there's a very, very distinct difference between facilitating, being open, allowing all that, and enabling. And all the self-doubt and all this redirected injustice, where you're trying to go against, you're resisting your pain, you're resisting, all these, people in your life, institutions in your life that are abusing power. I'm not saying that it's okay. I'm saying that just see it for what it is. Yes, all of that is true. Just take it for granted. You're not, that's not your job to to change the world. Your job is to change your place in the world and take that power for yourself to say, all right, I'm going to live in the world that I create. And the first step that I'm going to do is I'm going to stop me being focused on my suffering. Okay? I'm going to stop seeing myself as separated from everybody else. I'm going to stop seeing my pain as special or my energetic sensitivity as special. I'm going to stop doing that. I'm just in here just like everybody else, but what differentiates me from others is my willingness to step into that power of choice and to say, you know what, be it as it is, but I'm not participating in it. I'm in it, but I'm not of it. Now, how do you do this? Okay, this is 5th and 7th chakra. So that's why it's actually healing for you to step out of this denial and really go into this place of no nonsense without over-processing, without re-traumatizing yourself. And some of you know this, maybe we have a new healing modality here coming up called trauma healing, a very, very beautiful guided process that teaches you energetically and with it always also, sort of practically how to build this muscle memory on how to step out of your trauma and stepping into your own medicine. So collectively, how we're going to see this, all right, so there always is this mirror between, what we experience personally and what the collective is going through. Oftentimes we see this in synchronicities. There will be things that you see on the news that are presented through current events, sometimes even planetary disasters or weather patterns and stuff like that somehow lead you to this inner reflection. And I don't want to mystify this, but there is this mirror between us and the collective that is always there. After all, this is how I read out the collective energies, okay? So all you got to do is make the connection here and see the meaning of this, okay? What does it mean when the Vatican admits to the sexual abuse that has happened for hundreds, if not more than 1,000 years? What does it mean when things such as celebrities are being called out on domestic violence or sexual harassment or taking advantage of inferiors? What does it mean when people in power positions, in companies or in political positions are being called out on taking advantage of women to make career? What does this mean? This means that our society is starting to say no. Things that we have been accepting as normal are now becoming clear. It becomes now clear to us that these things shouldn't be normal. Okay? Sexual abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse, narcissistic abuse, childhood abuse, adult abuse, abuse in companies, domestic violence is never okay. There's nothing that can justify this. And just because it's been done all these thousands of years, it doesn't make it okayer. Okay, so the power that comes in here through seeing things the way they are is that you stop doubting yourself and really get into this place of saying, you know what, you're right. I don't have to be part of this. And the more of us step out of this as individuals, as in form of relationships that we're stepping out of, or even rental contracts, or job agreements, or larger karmic family agreements, the more of us step out, the less this can dominate the rest of the collective. So we as consumers are the ones that ultimately determine what our collective, what our society has to present. And so even as a consumer, you have the power to say, I'm not buying this shit anymore. I don't want to put this in my body. And to get into this place where you say, you know what, this is my right. I have a right to have clean air, clean food, to feel safe in my environment, to have my fundamental needs met. It is my right to not endure emotional abuse, to not buy into this collective insanity. That's not something we need to pay for or we need to fight for. That's my right. And you just got to make that your new reality. And when something happens that's like, sort of old paradigm, you just look at the people or the whatever, internally, externally, and say, really? Good for you. Well, but not for me. I'm not participating. I'm no longer playing the game. I'm stepping out. I'm doing my own thing. I'm doing my own business. I'm getting my own apartment. I'd rather stay alone than in an abusive relationship. I'd rather try to make it on my own than being in those dependencies that lead to nothing but me suffering. That's how simple that is. That's your power, guys. Okay? So how can we do this here? Within, sort of the practical the circumstances that we have. So first off, once more collectively, you're going to see a lot of outbursts of anger. You're going to see a lot of this, I call it the war of beliefs. Okay, this is starting now. We're going to see this for the rest of the year. The things that happen in New Zealand, that have happened here in the United States, since the beginning of the year, those things will continue to happen. And this is because people are becoming aware of that. Unfortunately, they don't have the tools and the consciousness and the awareness to contextualize this into having a choice, all right? They're still locked in thinking they have to eradicate that which causes it, okay? That which causes it is not what needs to be destroyed. That which causes this is in you, and that is your naivete and your ignorance, and to some part also your innocence. So you have to go into the self-forgiving and compassionate place with yourself and say, hey, yes, I have been participating in this. Yes, I have been enabling this in the past, but only because I couldn't see this before. So now that I'm seeing this, I am making a pact with myself that I'm no longer participating in this collective crazy making as soon as I see it. Now, there'll always be things that you won't be able to see. That's okay. You trampoline yourself up into a place where you come to this realization that, okay, you know what? Yeah, I see it. It is. Yep. Okay. If you want to still do this, fine. But I'm out of here. I'm not doing this. I'm doing this instead. Okay? So physically, there's very few things that we can do to prevent the physiological effect of all this trauma that we've had in the past. You really need to understand this. This has to do with our neurology, the biochemistry, muscle memory, all these hardwires that I always talk about. So this, other than you going into that spot of taking full responsibility for your body, there's nothing you can do to prevent that from happening. So yes, if you have had adverse childhood experiences, your tendency or your likelihood of coming down with severe illnesses such as asthma, COPD, lung cancer, and heart disease are skyrocketed. But does this mean that you have to participate in this? No. But if you don't step out of this, okay, then nobody will do this for you. And just because the rate of people with heart disease is like almost 46% and people coming down with lung cancer is like 25%, doesn't mean that you have to be part of this, guys. Don't buy into the collective telling you, well, if you have these kind of circumstances or if you have these kind of genetic dispositions, then you're going to end up sick. That's collective crazy making. You have the power to change your own body. Every single cell in your body renews, including your bones, including your DNA, guys. Within 12 to 14 months, you can renew, you can reinvent yourself and reprogram yourself. And this isn't a mystery. This isn't like sort of magical healing. We all have the power in us. And self-healing and energy healing teaches us this. We begin to see this. Now, many of you have already experienced how, like a positive attitude, for instance, can increase your chances of healing. But there's so much more potential. So go into your self-responsibility. Understand that this new paradigm that I always talk about is not some sort of fantastical future where we all just get healed spontaneously. No, there's something you have to step into and then follow through with it. So physically, you're going to have to deal with some of these things by doing something about it. And my tip, as I've already laid out, is to go into regular routine. Include self-nurturing and self-care that connects you with your heart, that connects you with your true self, that connects you with your own self-healing abilities, and add a regular energetic self-clearing routine to your day. See this as a necessity, not as a luxury, okay? Emotionally, lots of you guys will feel a bit angry, a bit agitated here next week, so don't let this loop you back into your, first it's the outburst of anger, then it's the shame that comes in, then you feel guilty again, and then you end up getting stuck in your pain again. Those are emotional loops. You've got to see your emotional loops and get bored of it, okay? Just see how it's getting old. If you don't do anything about this to disrupt this, it's just going to continue. It's a hamster wheel, guys. See it. Make a conscious choice, okay? And those of you who understand energetics a bit, the frequency of anger, the energetic frequency of anger is much higher than pain. So you can use your anger as a springboard, as a trampoline to propel yourself and to heal yourself, but you can't get stuck there. So this is where most of you guys have an issue. You get stuck in anger or judgment. And then, because those are still energetically contracted states, zooms you back into your guilt and your shame. And, this critical inner voice keeps you there. So you have to really identify this ego voice in you as the part that keeps you in that hamster wheel and disrupt it. Okay, so when you want to get out of your emotional loops, you're going to have to really coach yourself with telling yourself no more suffering. What am I trying to do here? Just trying to prove how much I suffer? Sure, you can do that, but that is not self-healing. That is the hamster wheel. That is self-fulfilling prophecy. Okay, intellectually, mentally, it's this no-nonsense attitude that I'm modeling here for you. Okay, because this emotional looping happens mentally as well. So if you get caught up in pros and cons and you can't make decisions and you don't know what to do and you feel trapped, yes, I understand those situations. We all have them from time to time. But how are you going to change that? You have to call a shot, guys. What is holding you back from calling shots? Fears of making a mistake, fears of not being perfect, of not, doing the right thing. Then take a moment to think about what right is and what those parameters are in your head that define right for you. And then bring this in context with your self-healing powers, with your power of consciousness and your power of choice. How does that go together? It doesn't. And that's where all of you guys get stuck in your minds with this incongruence and this inner conflict. You have all these great ideas and all these concepts in your head, these intellectual concepts of what spirituality or what healing is. Okay? But then when it comes down to actually making that choice, yes, I have a choice right now. I can choose to go into resisting the injustice, trying to prove, that the world is mean and that there are dark forces trying to, seduce you or tempt you into your own inner darkness. Or I can just say, hey guys, where there's light, there's shadow. Okay, and the more you awaken, the more your light begins to shine. Yeah, you're going to see your inner darkness. You're going to see outer darkness. Yeah, that's part of the process. But what are you afraid of? Coming out in the end as somebody who can actually see those things and make educated choices? So those are your options. Now, the spiritual aspect here, of course, that I bring in with looking at the intellectual aspects is to understand that there is a higher power in you, and that is not just some woo-woo thing. That higher power is there. That higher power, has created all this world around you. Okay, so you got to learn how to tap into that. how to consciously tap into the divine Wi-Fi, and then the messages and the options and the choices and the ideas, the inspirations that you get, they'll come from that higher power place within you. Okay, so there's no contradiction. It's just a matter of what you align yourself to. So ultimately, you know, this conflict that you're feeling is the conflict between your ego and the divine. Okay. Now, in relationships, it's of course tricky. There's enmeshment. There's all kinds of manipulation. I mean, you guys are all, including myself, all of us, have been conditioned, you know, to accept certain things as normal. And our ego, in its attempt to help us to survive, to help us to cope, has led to us not being able to see truth sometimes. So that's not your fault, okay? There's no reason for you to beat yourself up. And there's no reason to beat up other people over being stuck in their own illusions, okay? So yes, there's a little bit of grieving that comes with seeing truth, you know, seeing the reality of your relationship, seeing the reality of your parents, you know, and how they've conditioned you to accept denial, to accept abuse, to accept triangulation, to accept push-pull and all this. Yes, because you're seeing this in your romantic relationships, or perhaps in what you're experiencing and trying to actually connect with others. All right, okay. So yes, you were set up that way. Now move forward. Now choose to not do this anymore. Okay, and many of you really need this little sort of push to actually see things for what they are. Okay, this is what we do here within the Sacred Self-Healing community, where we go into depth of these manipulation things, of these trauma things, of you know, the energetics of stuff, and you can learn this. Okay, so I produce, you know, I don't know, roughly 20 hours of educational material in form of videos every month, guys. And in this Sacred Self-Healing community, the framework for that is the Sacred Self-Healing course, which is sort of a self-paced online course where you get lessons, and you get a workbook, and you get meditations, all things that you do with yourself, but where you're also invited to come to these workshops and these webinars that we continually do every week, where we step deeper into the mechanics, dynamics, and energetics of things, all right, where you can learn these things. But you got to do it. You got to really do it, okay? Nobody's going to do or make these choices for you. Nobody can step into your self-responsibility. Only you can. And when you say, I don't have money, or I don't have this, or I wish I had this, blah, 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 you are reinforcing that victim in you and basically agreeing to your suffering. Okay, so you're going to have to make the first step. Okay, and once you do this, you'll realize that there's a whole community out there of people who are already walking that path, who are you know, clearing the path for you, who are supporting you on this path, and who can provide you a roadmap for this path. You're just going to have to decide that you are not alone, no matter how big your entrapment or how desperate your situation is. Learn how to say no. As an empath, that's the big thing, because you have been conditioned into this guilt and shame by not speaking up, by not even seeing that you do have a choice. So I'm telling you, you do have a choice. All you need to do is to learn how to say no without guilt, and understanding that if you choose for yourself, you're not choosing against somebody else. That's the trick here. Spiritually, you know, it's really about this battle of ego versus God in you, you know, like, no, I know better, that needs to be overcome. And it's the innate human duality here, the ego struggle that we all have with our inner divinity. And therefore, my tip for you for this next week on the spiritual level is learn how to connect with your true self, learn how to call on your inner divinity, learn how to really be present with this. Within the next 10 days, guys, we have energetically, I would keep it simple for you and just remind you on trying to reflect on what this inner medicine, what this power that you have in you, what this means to you, where you can find this. And my hint here, so you're going to find this in your trauma, you're going to find this in your shadow, and you're going to find this in your wounded inner child. That's where you will find your true superpowers, the talents and skills that you have been fitted with to have the optimal learning experience here in this lifetime, to transcend your karma and to finally liberate yourself from the collective. Guys, I hope this helps you to realign yourself and to step into this next week in an empowered way. Like I've said, we have sessions going on every day here, deep self-healing sessions, teaching you how to do this. All right. Hope to see you in one of those sessions. Hope to see you in person in June during the summer solstice in Iceland. A phenomenal event that we are putting up there, where we are learning how to practically implement active self-healing. Bye, guys. Love you. Hope to see you next week. Thank you for your support.